What's going on, guys? So I've been on YouTube and I've been going through tons of tanks and tank setups from other YouTubers, and there seems to be a common issue, and that's algae. And usually, specifically, I'm going to address hair algae. So I seem to find that even some more experienced aquarists and reefers seem to be struggling with algae issues. And I find myself commenting a lot. You need to increase your filtration. But what do I know, right? I'm new to the hobby and maybe I'm just delusional. But what I think the problem is that majority of more experienced reefers and aquarists trust their equipment. They believe that because they have certain equipment, they shouldn't be battling algae. Well, I would beg to differ. So, have I dealt with algae? Absolutely. I found myself when I initially set up my 40-gallon breeder over here, battling green hair algae for my first month or so. I even remember going down to my LFS and saying, "Hey, Steve, I keep battling this algae. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why." And he said, "Check your salt." Now, I did think, you know what? He's probably right. He then went on to tell me that he had issues with the same salt, and now he uses a different salt. So this is for a later video, because I did not test my salt. I wanted to come up with another solution to my hair algae problem, and here's how I did it. So, if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen 7 days ago I posted an image of about roughly, I would say it's probably about a pound of hair algae that I removed from my Refugium. Now, I didn't measure this, so I'm just giving an estimation. It is now 7 days later, and this is what my Refugium looks like. So this is 7 days later, and here's my Refugium. I'm going to actually turn off the grow lights so that you guys can get a more realistic sense of what's going on here. So if you're curious as to what I'm showing you is my Refugium, this is a 20-gallon long, and it's set up where the return pump's in the center, my filtration, my mechanical filtration is on the left, and my biological filtration is on the right. Now, what you're seeing here is, and honestly, I can't believe this. This is my Refugium, and it's filled again 7 days later. 7 days later, and this is my hair algae. Now, I do feed this tank rather aggressively. I feed multiple times a day, and I ensure that my fish are well fed. But you gotta understand, I have 8 fish in this system currently, so that's a pretty heavy bioload. I have a lot going on in here, and although the shrimp and other crustaceans assist with my filtration by consuming leftover food, they also produce waste, which also internally adds to the bioload. But again, why don't I have algae issues? Here's what I do. So when I set up the aquarium and I started having algae issues, I wanted to come up with a solution to solving my problem. Now, I had a Refugium. I initially had Chaeto in there, and that honestly did me no good. The Chaeto was slow to grow, and whatever other macroalgae in there, which I now mainly have some form of caulerpa, and that has taken off. It pretty much destroyed the Chaeto. It grew like wildfire, and that was my main source of macroalgae. And it was working, but it wasn't working well enough. I knew I still had little here and there blooms of algae, and I wanted to eliminate that. So what I did was, I was already running a skimmer. I was already running some type of polyfloss, polyfilter media, but it just wasn't enough. I I knew turning down your lights could help, but I didn't want to do that. And I also know that even though I turn down my lights, what if I want to turn them back up? If those nutrients are still in my system, I'm gonna have the same issue again. So another solution people say is do water changes. Yes, I mean, if you want to do a water change once a week, by all means go ahead. I don't want to do that. It's very time consuming and it's costly. So I needed another solution. Something more permanent with less maintenance. So I went ahead and purchased a canister filter. This is about a $20 cheapo, I don't even know the company, generic canister filter, and I set that up. So that was now pulling water directly from my filtration section and filtering it out through the canister filter. Additionally, I was running one 12 watt grow light. Now this is a sealed grow light. It's meant for hydroponics and water-based lighting. So it's sealed and it's waterproof or water resistant. So that was working. And I was running that on an opposite schedule like most people say you should. But I wanted to step it up even more. So what I ended up doing was I purchased another 12 watt grow light. So now I'm running two 12 watt grow lights for a total of 24 watts. And I place them both on here and I run them 24/7. You heard me, 24/7. And if you're like, oh, well, that shortens the life or anything like that, these were about, I want to say, $15 a piece. Now imagine spending money on one of these designated grow lights by some of these aquarium lighting companies. You can be spending upwards of $100 for one. For one. I spent $30 on these two, producing 24 watts, and they work phenomenally. So you might get annoyed if you see me stop by on your video and say, hey, but I really think you should increase your filtration. That's because it works. If you think your filtration is enough, it probably is not. Okay. Also, I did notice I used to have that little biofilm that goes on up there. Again, increase your filtration. That is completely gone. I have no issues. Not even remnants of a biofilm is there. Okay. I have no algae, not bulbal algae, not hair algae, not diatom, and I also don't even have coralline algae in here. Okay, so take my word for it, guys. If you're battling algae, don't worry about turning down your lights. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what. This light, my Radion was running at 35% for months. And recently, I knew I needed more lighting because I can see some of my coral were suffering. I bumped it up to 50%. One shot, no incremental changes. And you would think, in an ordinary situation, you would expect some type of algae bloom. I don't have that. I bumped it up to 50%, never saw algae in my system. Okay? That's because my filtration is really efficient. I have a ton of it. And not only that, but my copepods are healthy. They're thriving. I probably could literally bag and sell copepods at this point from the efficiency of my Refugium. So what I advise is, guys, add on some additional filtration to your sump or your tank. And if you're running a Refugium, increase your lighting in your Refugium okay, you should be able to be producing a constant amount of algae, because if it's growing that rapidly in your sump, that means it's not growing that rapidly in your system. Okay, and that means if that lighting were to be, if your filtration were to change, you would be experiencing this algae bloom in your main system. So I'm gonna end this here. I'm gonna go ahead, show you me removing this hair algae one more time, so you can get the idea of what I'm saying. So here we go. I'm gonna go ahead. First, what I do is I shake this as much as possible. Actually, first step for me is to shut off my return pump. Actually, I just put it in feed mode for 10 minutes. Then I shake up the hair algae. This just allows the copepods time to run away and find somewhere else to hide. And then I just start scooping like a rake-like motion. And usually it comes out as like one big string. Check this out. Check it out. So for those of you who thought I was kidding, this is hair algae. That looks like a bristle worm. I try to keep as many of my bristle worms as I can. Try and flick them off. He's still on here. Oh boy. So yes, there's a bristle worm on there. It's kind of hard to tell, but I'm trying to save him. I'm gonna rip that piece off and give him a chance. But there we go. More hair algae. And more hair algae. And there's another bristle worm. Where'd he go? Ah, there he is. Okay. I believe that was probably the same one. Give my copepods chances to scurry away. Seem to be ripping off some of the caulerpa. So here you go, guys. Let's see if we can get some light in here. 7 days of algae. Alright? 7 days. 7 days of pure hair algae. That looks like I got an amphipod in here. I'm gonna go ahead and pour him back in. It's gonna be kind of hard to do. Sorry, buddy, but actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour that into my Refugium of my 2-in-1. But there you go. 7 days. Beautiful, bright green hair algae. And here's my skimmer. It's running very efficiently. And here, right here, you can see the canister filter. It's a cheap, I'll do a review of it, but it's a cheap, well, $20 canister filter. And it drains right out of here. This is the green hose, drains right out of, this is my mechanical filtration area. And then it drips water back through this filter floss media, and that water goes down, filters through that, filters through a sponge, and then goes into the return pump. Guys, increase your filtration. That is my tip of the week, my tip of the month. And if you know someone battling algae, pass on the word. Please increase your filtration. It will save you a lot of money, time, and frustration and headache. You won't want to quit the hobby and start over. Okay, all right. My name is Alex. This is Budget Aquatics. Have a good one.